What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain marijuana laws so you can change them. Today, we're joined by Joline Rivera from Kitchen Toke, which is a cooking cannabis magazine. So let's just get right into it. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Danksgiving's upon us.
Yes. Gluttony.
Yeah. Gluttony. So we're going to talk about kitchen and cooking with weed for Danksgiving. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Cannabis Legalization News. To find out how many times I'm going to say Danksgiving today.
So, Joline, what are you guys running with? Is it Thanksgiving?
We're running with Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
Actually, I Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving, it's really a day of being indulgent over here.
Mm-hmm. So where is Kitchen Toke located out of?
We're based in Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what is Kitchen Toke?
Kitchen Toke was founded in 2017. We are the first and currently the only media company in the world informing the consumer on culinary cannabis for health and wellness. I think we all know that cannabis can get us high, and I think what people don't know is that it's not just about being high. You can also be healthy.
Very true. Very true. Cannabis.
I was going to say this year we also just founded our very first food product about 100 days ago. We just launched our very first infused food, which is a CBD from hemp honey that is infused by bees and not humans.
Oh, wow.
By bees and not humans. So how do they infuse the CBD into the honey then?
Well, thanks to Beefuse Technology, our founding research team and partners based in Israel, they discovered a way of offering bees a hemp organic juice that the bees eat, and then they don't have an endocannabinoid system, so they basically put the cannabinoids into the honey for us.
So you have a CBD honey farm?
I do.
That's amazing.
Does it work for THC, or is there just something magic about CBD? I know that it's legal, you know.
It does work for THC. We have, they have experimented with it. We have produced small quantities of a THC infused honey, and it's great because the bees are eating the cannabinoids and they're breaking them down with their bee belly enzymes. Therefore, they're actually making it a bioavailable and water soluble cannabinoid in the honey.
That's one of the things that's really difficult with THC, and one of the differences between THC and CBD is the solvency ability of water, and THC being the more hydrophobic of the two cannabinoids. So that's always one of the more difficult things, because as it is Thanksgiving, I have a whole bunch of, accoutrement that I've brought onto the scene. This is a full spectrum extract that I made with glycerin. This one's nice if you're mixing it with drinks, because glycerin has, it suspends in water much easier, but it would also extract the cannabinoids. So you're saying that the bees have some magical property within them, so they can act as your extract machine, huh?
Well, the bees are really breaking down the oils with their bee belly. They're essentially digesting it for us, and then they're putting the contents of what they're eating back into their honey. So arguably, they're making probably one of the first, if not the only, natural water-soluble CBD in the world.
Now, the reason why the bees are able to do this is, like you said earlier, though, they have no endocannabinoid system, right? So it's just kind of like flushing through them. They're not even absorbing any of this.
Correct. Actually, there's some research out of Poland that I've read recently that the cannabinoids is somehow making the bees healthier and stronger and more able to fight against pesticides that they're consuming on a natural level, because the bees are still foraging naturally. Our bees are still foraging naturally. The bee farm is owned by Beefuse Technology. It's in just north of Santa Barbara. And the bees are still flying around foraging flowers and stuff, but they're also taking in this organic hemp juice. So it's really cool because it's a single ingredient food. I mean, when you ask me what the ingredients is, it's just organic honey, which is kind of amazing.
I wonder if it's going to be possible in the future just to restrict the bees only to those flowers. Just so that, because I wonder how you're supposed to titrate dosages for that honey? How do you control for the THC amounts that are present therein? So like
they are what they eat, really. Bees are essentially, they are what they eat. When you give them a certain quantity of or level of THC or CBD, they break it down and process it and put it back into the honey. So, you know, just like humans, when you eat any oil through digestion, you're going to lose 30 to 40% of what you, or I'm going to say 20 to 30% of what you eat through your digestion process. The same with bees. They eat it, they kind of digest it for us. So they break the oil particles down into something water soluble. So it makes the outcome pretty level. So the bees are the same. So if they're eating the same and the bees are producing the same, you can, after a few tests, you know what the result's going to be.
What's your average per milligram, say, for per jar, their CBD content?
It's really low, actually. I could probably tell you per teaspoon, really. It's about 1.25 milligrams per gram. It's a very small dose of CBD, but it's very effective because it's broken down for us, and it will kick in about 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So if it's THC infused, you know, you could literally go to a bar and drink, you know, a drink with water soluble CBD honey or THC honey, and you could go 1-to-1 with your friend if they're having whiskey and you're drinking THC. You know, on that level, you would feel it in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Do the bees then kind of like decarboxylate the CBD then to an effect?
Well, decarboxylation is heating it up, right? So what they're eating is something that's already potent. So they're eating, you know, an oil, you know, a dense, you know, cannabinoid oil. So
fascinating stuff. I had no idea that bees had the power to create THC infusions, or like cannabis infusions. It could also be the CBD. But that was one of the reasons why I used the glycerin for just doing, you know, crude cannabinoid extractions from, like, I don't know, a whole bunch of trim or something. The glycerin acts as a fairly good solvent, and then you have something that you can mix into drinks fairly readily. So you can use it in lieu of that cannabis-infused honey. But that's pretty neat. You would need a cultivation license in the state of Illinois to make that, simply because the infuser can't, like, you know, take bees and give them to it. It's silly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is why we started with hemp only. I have zero plans right now to create a THC honey. So, or
yeah, I really okay.
I was gonna say, or the
so I really enjoyed Kitchen Toke. Because you've only, like you said, you've only been at it for 2 years now.
We launched very late 2017, just on the cusp of 2018. So yeah, about 2021 will be 3 years.
That's awesome. Just 3 years.
The quality of their content's pretty great. You know, they've had a dinner with Jim and Belushi. One of the things that really interesting to me was your dinner at Bloomingdales. Like, Bloomingdales paid for you guys to show up and infuse a CBD dinner.
Yeah, how great is that? Yeah. So we used to do a lot of events like that, obviously pre-COVID, but we did 5 different dinners, I think, in New York, around New York Fashion Week, and some celebratory and pretty popular fashion designers would ask us to come in and create a CBD dinner to, you know, celebrate their New York shows. And one of them was Prabal Gurung, and he had a collaboration to celebrate with Bloomingdales. So Bloomingdales Kitchen Toke hosted a dinner in his honor.
Awesome. So then the recipes and whatnot. Where did you guys get all the recipes that you have on the Kitchen Toke? They have this one that I'm looking at, is tart CBD pomegranate gummies. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, right? I think that one came from either a food developer. We've got another one coming out from Chef Derek Simsick. But, I am not a chef. I'm a creative director who basically have been in the food industry for 20 years and reporting on food trends and what chefs are doing. And I noticed a white space that needed to be filled. You know, there were people like my mother, my aunt, you know, a lot of people who were not using cannabis, who didn't know how to use it, were afraid to approach it. And I wanted to help them figure out how to navigate how they could use it for them in any way. So we launched Kitchen Toke, and I really just tapped into the food industry that I knew really well. And the first people we started to call on were chefs. And then we started to reach out to cannabis experts. So Kitchen Toke has a lot of health stories, a lot of cannabis information, a lot of recipes. That is a fact-based, source-based magazine. So we report the facts as we know them, and you know as well as I do that landscape changes as the research is coming in. So we get all of our content from writers who know what they're doing, who are sourcing all their material, and chefs who know how to cook, and chefs who know how to cook with cannabis.
I love your origin story on your website because you talk about how you took your professional life as a foodie type person, and then you just essentially infused your career. You know.
You know what? I love that. I didn't really think about it that way, but you're right, I did.
And then I mean, just your callus was your friend's dad, right? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So my friend Nellie Williams and I had worked together for 13 years, and her dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, which was heartbreaking to me. It's like family. And she would report on her dad to me. She actually was in Chicago, moved back home to Missouri where they are, and to be close to her family. And it was about 5 years in, and he was losing his cancer battle. He started at lung cancer, spread to his lymph nodes. It was in his neck. And I decided to try to do something that might help him increase his appetite, rest, help with pain. So I asked a few friends in Chicago who I knew were cannabis users how I could get some chocolates made. And I confess I didn't know much then. I knew that people were cooking with it. I wasn't a big user. I'd gotten high in high school a lot, really, and I kind of abandoned it then. And I really didn't know what I was doing as far as food and cannabis was concerned, but I just knew that he couldn't smoke because he had lung cancer. So I was going to try to find something that he could swallow easily. So I thought chocolates would work. So I took chocolates to him, and we were all, her and her 5 sisters. So there were 6 girls and myself and her mother in the room. And we watched his mood lift, his pain subsided. He started to get hungry. It was pretty cool to watch him want to crack open a beer and eat a sandwich. I mean, they were all crying. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, like this really worked.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. And I remember leaving and I was bawling my eyes out in the car. And Nellie, it's her dad. And she's like, why are you crying? And I said, I feel like this is the last time I'll see him. And it was. I was back down there about 3 weeks later for his funeral. And it was shortly after that I said, what if we do what we do and we bring this information to the cannabis world and combine it together, and maybe we could help just one other person have one good day, because that's basically how his family saw it. Joline, you helped him have one good day. And to them, it meant everything.
Wow. That's fascinating. And then you are not the first guest we've had on that has this exact same story. And very often that is the impetus for them getting into the cannabis industry itself. And then one of the cool things about Danksgiving is the edible aspect of it, because a lot of people, they don't want to smoke or they don't smoke. And we have another guest coming up on Wednesday, and we'll discuss there some more on Danksgiving. Let me just write that one down. I'm trying to keep a going track of how many times I say that. But one of the cool things is now you can buy these little extracts. The little, have you seen these? The little, they're made out of silicone, and then you can titrate your dose and put it right into you said chocolate. How would you use chocolate for these types of things? Because I've only really dabbled in the gelatins.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you can obviously make your own chocolate bars, but I like to create sauces when I infuse, because I think the flour's expensive. And when you infuse a whole recipe, like let's say, a whole cookie recipe or a whole brownie or a whole, mac and cheese kind of situation, it can be expensive, and especially if you mess it up. So I always tell people to experiment with some kind of sauce. Either it could be an aioli, it could be a barbecue kind of sauce, it could be a chocolate sauce, something to that extent, where you can either add more chocolate and make it spread out your THC, or you can figure out a way to say, I only need a teaspoon of this and then add something else. So This way you can sort of work your way up. And if you mess up, you're not messing up an entire, meal or something like that.
That's fantastic. But then how do you, because if you're making a chocolate or something, you usually need to have a solvent to pass through to get the extract. What types of extracts are you using to put into that chocolate?
Well, I think anytime you have a fat, you can bind your THC to that, right? So you really are looking for the fat in there. So you're looking for any kind of oil, whether it be a cooking oil, an olive oil, a coconut oil, a coconut milk. You could do MCT oil. You could do avocado oil. We've done bacon fat. So
neat.
we made a really great stone fruit galette out of bacon fat, and we made a flatbread out of bacon fat. So you can do even a pizza or something like that.
It's fantastic.
That sounds delicious.
One of the things that I have in the mail right now is another one of these silicone things, but it's for butter molds. And so like if you're making a butter extract or something, and then it has like the little pat lines on it. So because when you have a recipe, very often it calls for X amount of butter, and then you can calculate that.
Yep. Yeah. That's really great, actually. I mean, dosing is a problem. It's always been a problem. And not say a problem, I'm going to say it's a challenge. And that challenge gets easier with, in 2016 when we launched, there were hardly any packaged foods. Now, I mean, you have all kinds, from powders to honeys to chocolates to salts, sugars. I mean, if you go to our CBD shop, you can buy infused salt and infused sugar. So those are, pantry staples and pantry items infused are getting huge these days.
Yeah. You're on Kitchen Toke, you guys have the calculator, the dosage calculator.
Yep.
Where did you guys get that from? How is that generated?
I'm sure we tapped into a cook. To be honest, it's been in there for quite a while now. I know why we did it, but I can't remember exactly where where it originated from. I think it was talking to food people. I think it had something to do with an article about dosing, and so we probably formulated that. It's a math problem for sure, right? Yeah. But as you guys know, dosing is a problem because people eat an edible and it takes 45 minutes to kick in, and most people don't wait long enough, and they're like, I don't feel anything, and then they eat more. So, and then when you're cooking, I remember talking to Chef Miguel Trinidad, who's 99th Floor in New York, and he's also was the host of Bon Appetit. And he said chefs would come in and they're just throwing, weed here and there and not even really thinking about dosing. So I think that's an obstacle no matter who you are.
And so, like, is that the consideration when you guys do make dinners as far as dosage? You're like, hey, we're gonna, get a designated driver after this, or at the end you're trying to have CBD to counteract everything. Is that kind of what you guys do?
We make recommendations for sure, but as you guys both know, getting the flour you need or whatever we're making something with is not available here, there, or other places. So, we can make light suggestions, and we usually make them based on a terpene, based on a flavor profile more than a strain.
Nice. Yeah, the dosing can always be really, really difficult. And so like when I'm going to be making butter and stuff, I usually do some math from weighing the amount of product that I put into the extractor and then decarbing it for so long. And then, how much solvent you put in, and then you kind of have a number. It's a guess, but it's pretty good for being at home.
Yep. And a lot of people
are you guys, okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll just say both of you guys. Are you guys planning to make dinner like one of you separate? Because you both you two have the means to do it. Especially you, Tom, with all your tinctures and oils. Are you guys gonna have two separate Thanksgiving dinners, Friendsgiving dinners, or is it just like one medicated meal? Fuck everybody else.
One
medicated meal. That's bold of you.
Yeah. Well, I don't have kids. And there aren't a lot of kids running around here.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Kids.
And I'm not going anywhere. I'm not gathering with a lot of people this year. I'll be here at home.
Good. So you have to figure out how to put the stuff up. And like one of the nice things about these molds, if you are making like some gummies or like a piece of chocolate that would go into them, it says 21 and up on the bottom of them. And so like it'll have a little impression, kind of like warning the child. that they shouldn't be there. But then, of course, you're supposed to actually like put them up, so you hide them from the children.
Yeah, let's hope
Don't want
they
that
can
kid to the bar. Yeah.
But kids are going to get into your stuff no matter what. I mean, I have kids. They know better than touch the alcohol and stuff. You know, it's got to be a parent. That's just the hard part.
I think just it's being a parent, and if your kids know not to touch your flour or your cigarettes or your pre-rolls or your infused alcohol, anything, I mean, I think it's just a rule. If it's in a certain place, it belongs to mom and dad. I mean, and then there are a lot of child-proof Ziploc things that you could get. So.
It's a wonderful time to roll up a 420 because it is about 20 minutes into the show. So, and that is how we get out around on-screen usage.
YouTube's a bitch.
Yep. So we don't use on-screen. We roll that beeline and go to 420 somewhere.
So, Joline, what's going to be your preferred method for your dinner coming up? Is it going to be infused butter, or are you using infused oils? Like, what's the method of madness you're going to go for, or everything?
Probably butter, and definitely our honey. I'm gonna make a little. Sauce for a side sauce, so I can put it on anything. Really, that's the best way to go. You can save it for later. You can add it more as you need it, that kind of thing, So I think, we'll probably do something like that. And this year it's kind of fun because I have a lot of chef friends around me, and they're all want to make sure that I'm eating. I don't know why, but they're like, Joline, I'm going to bring you some of this. I'm going to bring you some of this. So I have a lot of friends bringing me turkey and different things that they're eating, which I'm sort of excited about. So I think I might just make a really nice squash, or actually my boyfriend's going to make a nice squash soup. And I think we're going to have some soup and really big fat turkey sandwiches, maybe with an infused aioli or something.
Nice.
That sounds delicious.
A little, that's a nice little. So, do you find using the infusions and condiments like an aioli, or some type, or like a honey, which is something that you could add in a portion? Is that a wise move when you're trying to get started with infused products and infused edibles?
I think so, because you're not really affecting the rest of your meal that way. I mean, if you mess up with a sauce that you can add, on anything. And I think, we've said this before, flour is expensive. So the last thing you want to do is, waste it. I always think these, I saw a cartoon the other day that said and we've actually produced these recipes. So I'll just say it. It's like, with leftover flour, do this. And I always think to myself, who the hell has leftover flour? Like, what is that?
Growers.
Yeah.
Croptober.
Yeah.
Well, and again, no one's giving your damn kid a freaking edible.
Yeah, well,
so expensive.
Well, yeah, that's right. But then again, like, down where I'm at, and then in the hollers and stuff where we have plants and medical cards, you're pulling down ounces every month. Can't put all that away. And so, like, it just adds up. But then, if you're just somebody in the city living in an apartment, you don't have the luxury of being able to grow your own, Yeah.
The other thing I'll do is I'll take our honey and put it with a little distilled water, and I'll make a simple syrup so I can infuse our cocktails pretty quickly.
Cool.
A lot of people, whenever they get into cannabis cooking and whatnot, always, how do you do medicated butter? How do you do this? I want to do that. But just a little hint, here in Washington State, you can buy RSO. Add that to your dinner.
100%. I love full spectrum, whole plant RSO. It's one of my favorites. I often put it in an empty capsule and go to bed with it.
Yes. Yeah. That stuff is hard to make. That's the only thing that I really buy for my dispensary anymore. I just haven't been, because like my dosage is sufficient, I think, with the supply that I have. I don't have to go to RSO right now. It's great stuff though. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, it is. And I think, it's, I actually bought an RSO at our dispensary here, and I was misinformed of the dose. And let me just tell you, I know what I'm doing. So I'm staring at the label and I'm going, wait, what is this? Like they said this at the dispensary, but I'm reading the label and I couldn't figure out how many milligrams of THC it was in it. The label was not clear. And this propelled me to really say, hey, to my content director, we need to do a story on labels. They need to be easier to use. They need to be or read. They need to be more informative. They need to be clear. It just wasn't clear. And long story short, I ended up overdosing myself. I think I was high for 3 days.
Yeah, like RSO will do that, and some patients will be like, I've seen them on YouTube, and they'll say they're on like 4 grams of it a day, and I'm like, damn, 4 grams of that a day. But some people, they just need like the size of a grain of rice or something. And when it's good RSO, it is just the size of a grain of rice, and that probably has like 25 to 30 milligrams of THC in it.
That's the recommended.
Yeah.
The size of grain of rice. That's the recommended, like to start with.
Yeah, but then you have to make sure you get the actual gram, because very often with RSO, high quality RSO, it'll come in a syringe, and that syringe has like millimeters precisely, and then that it's a gram, and then it'll have like 0 to 100 or something, and you can dose yourself, and at least and you're not going to be like 3x over,
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened, to be honest. It's in a syringe. It's very easily measured, but the milligrams per part was a miss on the label. So we basically, my boyfriend and I basically took in, I think 75 milligrams in one shot. Yeah. And he spent the night on the bathroom floor because he gets seasick. So he was motion sick from it.
Right.
I think he really didn't know what was happening. And I had enough wherewithal. I'm like, you don't need to go to the hospital. You're fine. You're just motion sick. So you're going to have to ride this out.
You're just really, really high. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're telling somebody. I gave him some peppercorn because, if you chew on the peppercorn, the terpenes and peppercorns will bring you back down. But he couldn't stomach it. He was nauseous. So he's like, get it away from me.
I've had that happen to me once, and I kept telling myself, well, if I do die, I'll be the only person to die from cannabis, so I'll be freaking famous.
I'll make history. They'll name the disease after me.
Seriously, like use my body.
He died of 420. What's that? It's when you get so high, you die. Oh,
no. Oh shit, man.
Yep, it's a wonderful plant. It really is. I'm glad that you're out there doing those types of things. And the CBD aspect is it's great that it's less regulated, because it should be. It should be. Like nobody ever has one of those stories. And then, oh my God, I had 70 milligrams of CBD.
Yeah.
But even if you overdose on for lack of a better word, it's overdose. But no one's really had to go to the hospital or got their stomach pumped. Opposed to like alcohol.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Alcohol causes real damage. But that's one of the great things about these types of parties. And then as people get experience with it and they can experiment with edibles, I just think that the alcohol erosion could be a real and present thing over the next 20 years, where cannabis becomes more widely used and accepted in various forms. So like right now it's, sure, of course, glass pipes and flowers, but some people might look back at that and say how quaint, in a couple more years, or not in a couple more years, but maybe in a couple more decades. But
it was within our lifetimes that you still couldn't use the word bong or water pipe in the store. They kick you out.
Tommy Chong was just arrested in 2003 for selling glass in Pennsylvania or something like that, or on the internet over state lines. Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, because when I grew up, my parents were getting high around us all the time. I mean, it's usually like Saturday night or Friday night. I always associated it with, it was like a party, getting ready to go out kind of thing. Or they took us to our concert. We would go to our first concert, and I was like 13, maybe. I don't even remember, and they would be getting high like at the concert or on the way to the concert. I mean, that was the 70s, so
Yeah.
I remember when I was 10, I went to this place called Forbidden Fruit and bought my mom and dad a stash box for Christmas. I didn't know that was a problem.
Where was
This was in Iowa.
Iowa? That was not even the top 10 states that I was imagining. What part of Iowa was that?
Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I wouldn't be
That's awesome.
if they didn't still have that.
Yeah.
I mean, and then that's what I mean. When I grew up, it wasn't a big deal. And I would get high a few times in high school, and I was like, I was over it. Went to college and sort of got really focused on my career, and just really never looked back until Nellie's dad got sick in 2011. And then I had to change my thinking because I was a kid who grew up in the just say no.
Well, that's also where the activism starts, right? Where it's like the low-hanging fruit of things that we don't think about because it's kind of childish. We're like, I was just smoking weed, no big deal. But yet people are in jail. They serve time, 20, 30 years. Death sentence sometimes.
Or they miss their medicine, man. Like they have autoimmune issues, or they have stress issues, or they have some other type of cannabinoid deficiency, because we didn't even understand what this chemical process was until the early and mid 90s. They didn't know how it worked. They just made it illegal. And then not only did they make it illegal, they made studying it illegal. So then all this data is coming in from Israel over the past 50, 60 years. And you're just like, and people don't know this. And not only that, they trivialize those who do. And they just go, come on, that's so juvenile. Grow up, you stoner. Work at a bank now.
Yeah, right? I work at a bank now, yeah. Well, I remember in 2017 where I let my parents know, I'm like, so I'm starting a cannabis business, I think, and they were like, cool.
But they were already aware then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing though. I don't think they still understand, my parents, A, what I do, and B, how much you just said it. We're suffering from an endocannabinoid. We have a deficiency. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just talked to Janice Champagne last week, and we were talking about the deficiency in autistic kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So she believes, which, I've read a couple times, that autism wouldn't exist if children weren't deficient.
Yes, and then the studies, they don't fund them. Again, the studies have to be done somewhere else. Just to see the science of it. That's probably one of the reasons why the endocannabinoid system wasn't discovered until the 90s. They're like, nah, we're not even going to look into this. It's illegal. That's enough. It's just stupid.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and
people keep saying that there isn't enough study. If you go to PubMed, there's 34,492 research studies the last time I looked. So and then you have the FDA, who owns the patent on medical marijuana, and they just produced the synthetic. Help me out with the name of it.
Epidiolex.
Epidiolex.
There's several, but that patent has expired. We actually did a show on the day that it expired because we were just happenstance talking about it, and we pulled it up to go over it, do a screen share, and just trash patent 663507. And then it was on the day that it expired. So hey, cannabis isn't patented anymore. At least the cannabinoids in them aren't. That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then I'm talking to chefs in Seattle who are working with the FDA to get them to recognize that cannabis is not just, it's not a superfood, it's a functional food. Superfood is blueberries. A functional food is a food that has more physiological effects, meaning, it can help us, honey is a functional food, all by itself, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial properties, things like that. So I think cannabis is food, and I think food is medicine. So I really want the FDA to recognize that cannabis is food, and it's not just the flower, and it's not just the compounds, it's also the leaves.
Totally. Well, and I think you're right too, as far as the THC deficiency that we're all talking about, because I just did a podcast the other day where we talked about doing a man in the street. like walking around and asking people randomly, hey, do you know what your endocannabinoid system is? But I told the guys, like, let's take it one step up. Let's ask doctors. Just go to doctors and see if they're talking about this thing that is entwined with our nervous system and our bone structure. See if they talk about, if they know what it's about, and you know what their perception is as far as, like, you know, we drink vitamin C to help prevent scurvy. We put fluoride in our water to prevent like bone disease. So allow me to smoke my freaking THC and support my endocannabinoid system.
It will help reduce chronic disease. It will help basic nutrition functions. It will help tissue repair, inflammation. I mean, everything we do, every illness and every injury starts with inflammation. Everyone.
Inflammation is hugely important in, you know, living and on many diseases. I mean, it's so correlated to everything. And the more like inflamed your systems are, the more susceptible. Like even with COVID, the people that had the worst problems are usually the ones that had the pre-existing conditions, what meant they already had a lot of inflammation going on for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's something else. And I think it's really great that we actually get to be here and continue to explain this to people. And then they're like, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And then they get your story, and then they become cannabis addicts, activists, because they see it, and then their minds have changed. It's just, I wish it was easier to change minds as opposed to having it become something that they personally have to go through and see the benefit before they actually got on board, you know?
Agree. I mean, I can't say that I was never one of those people who was like, oh, I don't want to hear it. I've always been pretty open to new ideas. I mean, when I walked away from cannabis, I just walked away from something, a party scene that I really didn't want to have anything to do with. I had no idea about the medical benefits until I started paying attention to the landscape and the food landscape with it. But I'll say, you know, descheduling this drug would really just reaffirm what Kitchen Toke set out to do. I mean, when I was looking for a recipe for Nellie's dad, there was nothing for me to really trust, to really say, okay, I can get something from here. You know, unless I was really looking at High Times, which they weren't talking about food, or dope. You know, those magazines aren't appealing to my mother, to my aunt, to my uncles, or whoever, you know. I was trying to create something that would speak to all of the people who aren't looking at cannabis. So if it were to be descheduled, it would just reaffirm all of the things that we set out to say, that this is a healthful thing and that's not, you know, addictive, and it does have medical properties, and, you know, you don't need a doctor, you know, to follow you with this.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't need a police to follow us with this.
True. Yeah.
Absolutely don't. Absolutely don't. No.
Such a
I understand the tax collector. I get it. Sure. You want money. Who doesn't? So you're going to track it. Fine. But, you know, that's why we have sales tax. That's why we have all taxes. It's just all a big tracking scheme.
And it's about wellness too, overall. You know, it's about keeping your body balanced. You know, it might not be your choice or someone else's choice. I love the fact that Kitchen Toke, you're trying to appeal to this like suburbanish audience, more of a people who aren't asking questions. You know, because as you guys are talking, I just can't stop but thinking how COVID has shown us we got a lot of idiots. I mean, people even catch COVID and be like, "Nah, man, I got this." Are you kidding me? Yo, you got sick. You're lucky. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, I think if there's two things that we've learned this year, actually, I think we found out in 2016 just how willful ignorance will elect a president just as ignorant, and to how no matter what you do, no matter who you are, no matter what you're eating or not eating, or what, you know, exercise regimen you have, or how many doctors and what your health care is, if you don't take control of your own health, there is no one else who can help you. And that has never been more evident than right now in the middle of a health crisis. I mean, people are losing their health care. People can't get healthy. People aren't healthy. I mean, this pandemic highlighted just how not healthy the American person is, really.
And the fact that there was multiple articles saying that cannabis can help enforce your inflammation system, help your immune system, and it's still not going to be an option for the populace, no matter what. Like, you know, where all these pandemics are having surges, if they could only just try smoking cannabis to even out. Maybe that would have helped their ecosystem or whatever.
If Americans want to be healthier, they will start demanding that type of things, because then the wellness aspect of cannabis will become a motivating purchase factor. So people want to be healthy. So hopefully now that'll be something that comes up more and more. I mean, we have a culture that to a certain extent is a little hedonistic, and they like a little bit of excess. So you can understand why they're, as obese as they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple things, at play. I think, I think people are more open to it because of the pandemic, right? They're looking at other options, other things they can do. I've seen that happening a lot lately. Like, I'll try it, right? And then I have friends in Iowa where they have an ignorant governor, Governor Kim Reynolds, who has put restrictions on CBD sales in the state. There are people who get shut down for selling CBD in the state of Iowa. CBD from hemp, you guys.
Wrong.
And in
That's
the
wrong.
entire state of Iowa, there are 2 dispensaries. That's it. And I have a friend here who's suffering from MS, has a medical card, and has trouble just getting her cannabis to medicate for her MS.
I thought that also Iowa does not have, because we haven't done any shows on Iowa simply because I just wasn't too thrilled about it. It was like, we'll get to that after we've talked about everything else. That's a pile of crap over there. But with Iowa, I thought it still is low THC cultivars only, something that's going to be like less than 3% THC, which not knocking those plants. They have a wonderful place in your, because with cannabis is like wine or like beer, because like there's a bazillion types of beer. There's a bazillion types of wine, and there's all sorts of different flavors. And same with cannabis, and then with the CBD cannabis all the way through these other strange cannabinoids that are out there. And so you have all those flavor profiles, and I can't really remember where I was going with that. Somewhere. Iowa. Low THC. Right. Low THC. And then they don't even really allow that. And then they're stopping the CBD sales. That's against the federal law. You're not supposed to interrupt international commerce in CBD. So like, if I'm in Illinois, I should just ship people in Iowa hemp flower and be like, here you go. And then if they say, hey, well, if they say, hey, no, you can't do that, and then they try to arrest them or like take it or something, be like, whoa, well, file this in the court and then tell them to release your property because they aren't allowed to do that, and see what happens. That'd be fun.
Well, we're sending a lot of our honey to Iowa. I mean, as you can imagine, growing up there, being from there, there's a lot of people I know from there. They pay attention to what I'm doing. Word travels fast. So, I mean, honestly, if I can help people feel better, sleep better right now, calm down anxiety, I mean, I have no idea what it takes to have kids at home while you're working from home, but no, thank you.
What about the types? Because like if you wanted to do the sleep better, all that. So let's say we're going to have a cultivar with CBD that's high in myrcene. It's going to be like a Kush type of cultivar there, or something, purple. And will those terpenes also go through the bees, honey making process?
To be honest, I mean, really, I think the sky is the limit where that is concerned. The process that this honey is made is patented, so no one else can do it, which is great. So I think if to answer your question, if we wanted to do like I guess a CBG honey or a CBN honey, you could. But I'm really of the school of thought that the whole plant is better. I mean, if I'm going to give my advice to somebody, I would say, whatever it is that you're buying or eating, an oil, a tincture, you want whole plant. So you want all of the aspects of the plant to work together. So I think you were just kind of saying the same thing with this lower THC idea.
Joline, thank you so much for joining us today. I have one of your issues here right now, and I'm looking at this brown butter apple pie with cannabis honey whipped cream, which I'm definitely going to make this Thursday. Where can we go?
Issue 1.
Yeah, this was from a client.
Issue we ever did. Yeah, this is issue 12 here.
Nice.
And 13 will be out in January, and it will have an extensive research-based article all about cannabis and its effects on COVID, by the way. So.
Ooh, interesting. Where can we go to find, follow, and read Kitchen Toke?
KitchenToke.com. Everything you need is there. Our honey is there. Our CBD shop is there. Our magazine is there. All of the recipes, articles, and health information. It's all there. Videos
Awesome.
too.
Dope. Thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We'll see you on Wednesday. Oh,
Hey, remember, I said Danksgiving, including that time, 9 times.
that's big. Let's shoot for 20 next Thanksgiving.
We'll see, but I hope that everybody has a good one. And remember, try sauces.
Try sauce.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. See you Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
see you Wednesday. Thank you.